I received an email from David, and he was trying to break the 3-hour mark for the marathon. And in his terms, he threw anchor the second half of the race and wanted to know what my thoughts were. I want to share this with you because maybe you've experienced the same thing. Maybe you've had that dreaded race where you you start super strong, but you finish abysmally. Maybe you start with a bang and with a fizzle. Whatever cliche you want to put on it, maybe you've done this before. Let me explain what could be the reasons why it's happening. Take a look at your training, look at your racing, and maybe you can connect the dots and solve the problem for you as well. The number one thing that I always look at when somebody throws anchor and goes backwards is, what was your strategy? What was your approach? If you know the race is X duration in time, how did you approach the first half? Notice the psychological shift here. Most people are frustrated because they blow up and they go backwards. When you're starting the race, it's very difficult to get people to practice. Notice I didn't say implement, because you can't implement it unless you practice it, in my personal opinion. But if I can get you to change your strategy at the beginning of the race, always start conservatively. I know that sounds really easy when you're watching this video, but it takes discipline. It takes the quantification to know how hard is too hard intensity-wise. How do we know, can you sustain it to the halfway point and then pick the pace up? That's always the goal. Because if David had had a race where he was faster the second half, in the physiology world, we refer to that as a negative split. If David had negative split the race, even if he didn't hit his 3-hour mark, he wouldn't have that dead sensation of, I threw anchor and went backwards. Maybe you've experienced the same thing. Start the race, or in this case, depending on where you're at in your athletic experience, you can either take a past experience, or maybe you're watching this before your next upcoming event. What pace do you want to finish at? And make sure that you do the first half easier than whatever that pace is. That takes a paradigm shift of the way you think and the way you approach. It should be implemented in your training. The second thing that you want to look at is, what is your calorie burn rate? Now, let me digress for just a moment. If you've practiced this, you know what pace you want to finish at, more importantly, what intensity. So you know the first half, what that intensity is going to be, or pace, depending on what. I do everything off of heart rate. You may not be somebody that does, and that's fine. If you're going to go off of pace, or in my case, heart rate, you should know what your calorie burn rate is for that first half. You should have a nutritional strategy, because when I go and I answer the question, what caused me to go backwards during the race? Number one, not delivering enough oxygen. Number two, running out of sugar. Number three, dehydrating or becoming electrolyte out of balance. I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, that's overwhelming. Well, you're doing it when you're out there training. You're working and moving and adjusting your training intensity. Well, are you looking at the analysis because you want to finish the entire duration strong, but you peter out at the halfway mark, or you peter out at 3/4? You're not as strong at the finish as you are at the start. Now, again, I'm not naive. It's going to be tough for you to negative split the event. You've got to be physically strong. You've got to have a big aerobic engine. What I'm talking about is answering the question and the frustration, why did I throw anchor? You either dehydrated, you ran out of sugar, ran out of oxygen, overextended the muscles and the muscular fatigue, or a combination of all those together. So I'm hoping that when you watch this video, you'll get ahead of the idea, why do I keep going backwards at the end of the race? Turn the entire conversation around. How fast do you want to finish? And what's it going to require from an oxygen, i.e. heart rate intensity? That's the way I look at it, because you don't have a measuring device of oxygen at that point. Look at intensity, know what your calorie burn rate is at that intensity, and then have a nutritional strategy to offset it before you need it. If we say it in the physiology world, it's nothing new. If you wait till you're thirsty, you're dehydrated. If you wait until you're hungry, you're already undernourished. You've already run out of sugar. You're going backwards. So we always want to be ahead of that so we don't ever have that sensation. Finding that sweet spot that you don't hit the calories too early or too late, that's what makes athleticism so powerful. That's what makes performing at that top level a science, and I love that. So thank you so much for the question. If you happen to have any questions about this or anything of frustration that you may be dealing with, please make sure that you leave me a message below, or feel free to reach out to me and my team. You can do so at contact@coachrobb.com. If you like this information, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button if you want to get notified that we've put new videos out. Our goal is to do a video every day, so that way, because again, as the old saying goes, if you don't know what to ask, you don't know what to ask. And the purpose of these videos and answering your questions is to make sure that maybe I can get the knowledge in front of you so it doesn't become a problem for you when you're out there training and racing. So thank you so much for watching the video, and we will see you again soon.